Hi, this is Cherie from Tangerine Monday Weaving Co. Today I'm going to show you how to warp up the tiny loom. To do the warping, you'll need a little pair of scissors, you'll need your weaving needle, and you'll need some thread. The thread we're using today is this Maurice Brassard linen tapestry thread. It's called Maurice Brassard Belgian Linen Tapestry Yarn 12-2. That describes how thick the thread is, the numbers. You can use any sort of cotton. A sturdy cotton thread needs to be quite strong. I wouldn't suggest that you use wool because wool can get quite fluffy if you're weaving over it from the friction. Okay, so I'm going to put my yarn down on the floor. And starting at the top corner, I'm going to do a bookmark size. So I'm going to leave 3 of these notches, but you can warp the whole thing if you want to go wide. With the tail, I'm just going to pop my thumb on it and hold it there while I start. And you go around the teeth and back down. So you're always coming down on the front of the loom and you're hooking behind the teeth. So behind the teeth is where you'll see you caught the thread. Down behind the tooth. Up to the other end, behind the tooth. Until I get to where I have 3 notches left because I'm doing the bookmark size, or you can go all the way to the end. When you get to 3 notches, you're going to turn around and you're going to come back the way you came, still going behind the tooth. So now I'm coming in here where the second yarn is and around the tooth, back down, around the tooth, back down, around the tooth. So I'm going over the top of the yarn that I've already threaded up. Around the tooth, and when I get to the end, I'm going to go around one more tooth and back up to the top where I've got my thumb. I can put both the yarns under my thumb now, and leaving myself a nice tail, I'll snip that off. Now this warping is quite firm, but not so firm that you bend the loom. Now I've got 2 tails here, the one that I started with under my thumb and the one that I just finished with. And I'm just going to hold on to those 2 tails at the top here. Oops, it's come out. Oops. Go back in there. That one should be behind there. Right, turn it over to the back, it's easier. So I've got my 2 tails now on the back, and this is where I'm going to tie a knot. Excuse my fingers, I've been doing some dyeing and my fingers are quite dirty from the dye. Okay, if you've got someone to help with holding this for you while you tie your knot, it's a good idea because you want to keep those yarns nice and tight. I sometimes can do a bit of finger gymnastics here by myself, but if you've got someone to put their finger on it, even better. You don't want to lose your tension on the yarn. Tight, and then just one more crossover. You can tie just a regular sort of knot here with like that. There we go. So you'll have a knot with some tails there. You can snip those tails off a bit, leave about an inch, so they don't get in the way. And then you should have a nice firmish, there's still some movement there, warp on your loom. You'll notice that there's one thread on each end. In the notches on each end there's only one thread, and in all the other notches you should have 2 threads. If you don't have 2 threads in all those other notches, you might have missed one, so it might be good to go back and check. Now the second stage of dressing the loom is where we separate these threads out, where we've got the doubles. We want to separate those out because we'll be weaving under and over each one of those separately. So to do this, get another nice long sort of an arm length piece of your same yarn that you warped with. This one is, you don't have it, you take it off at the end, so it's not included in your weaving. It's just to keep those warp threads separate and to keep it nice and firm and straight. So I've just threaded my needle. I've threaded my needle here. I haven't tied a knot. I'm just going to be using a single thread. And if you come up, just start by going under and over and under, but you're separating those 2 threads. So go over one and under the other one, over one, under the other one. For every pair, you're going over one and under the other one. Over one, under the other one, over one, under the other one. And for the last thread, I'm going over because there was under there. And pull it through, but leave a fairly long tail, or not a fairly long tail, leave a tail at the end because we're going to tie a knot there. You don't need to push it down at this stage. Now for this one, we're doing a tapestry style floor. This is called the floor. So we're going to go around the loom, just around the edge of the loom there, so that is caught up in that thread. See here? And now I'm going to come back, and for each one that I went over last time, I'm going to go under this time, and for each one that I went under last time, I'm going to go over this time. So under, over. Now I find it useful to turn the tapestry needle, helps me to go under and over, and I also find it useful to use my finger here, and I can manipulate the threads with my finger to, if I need to separate them or if I need to push one down and lift one up. So every thread that I went over last time, I'm going under this time, and every thread that I went under last time, I'm going over this time. Those two are a bit close together. There we go. Under, over, and those two. Under, over. If you needed it, you could have another little needle that you use here to separate them. That would be quite handy. And I'm just going to use my needle to push those down, and I'm just pushing them down right in between the pairs to separate them even a bit more. So you can see they're starting to separate out now, those pairs. So I'll have double the amount of warp yarns as I do notches. Now we're going to do another row of that around the frame. Catch up the frame, should still have your tail there. And back we go. So it's the same again. Under, over, under, over, under, over. Should be getting much easier now, especially if you use your needle to push that yarn down and separated the pairs a bit more. Push it down. Around the frame. This is our last one for our floor. Under, over, under, over, under, over. You can push those close together, but not right down at the bottom. Leave yourself a little bit of space. So a few centimetres away, or maybe 1.5 centimetres from the bottom. And now I've got 4 rows of weaving. I'm just going to cut the thread off. And with your 2 tails, make sure one of them goes over the wooden frame and one goes under the wooden frame, and then just tie them on the side into a nice knot. Just give it a little bit of tension when you do that. Tie your knot. And there is your tiny loom all dressed and ready for weaving.